How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to ReWrite. So, yeah, I'm pretty darn sure we're done with the Lucia route. I'm kind of guessing things might be a little different. So there's essentially two ways I see this going. Either I'm really close to the end and we're just going to be done with it in like 5, 10, 15 minutes. And if that's the case, the video will continue. Probably. Assuming I can get my timetables right, I will then proceed to then summarize my experience with the Akane and Shizuru routes before we move on to the grand, like the beginning of the actual like finale of this series. Either that's today, or this ending's longer than I'm expecting, and we'll kind of proceed forward, but know that I'm getting ready for that bigger finale. It just depends really on how much longer I have with the Lucia story. Like, maybe I'll be completely wrong. Maybe there's like a whole thing where they have an entire arc where they go and hunt down the rest of the like cult-like organization. But it just felt so kind of final in this last confrontation. I'm not too sure about that. So I'm kind of banking on both. I'm going to be doing what I can for that. But, you know, regardless, I'm anticipating this is going to be either a full feature-length episode or we're just in a holding pattern for another week while I'm trying to get my ducks in a row. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the nature of doing things blind. You never quite know how it's going to play out. So let's just jump right into it, shall we? We managed to finally actually talk to Lucia, despite Kotarou being really stupid. Some of you even complained with me that he seems really dumb. Again, it's one of those things where, like, out of the situation, it feels really obvious, like he was fumbling. But in reality, if you were actually in some type of similar situation, the high intensity, like the stakes and all of it would probably make us all idiots too. But it still was really frustrating. And even at the time, for some reason, I just was emotionally struggling with it. So, yeah, we'll have to see. Anyway, let's go and see how this plays out. We have a nuke on the way. We better get going. So, let's jump in. And cut.
仲直りのシーンにはそれで十分よね。撤収準備急げ。もう日の出まで時間がない。西九条さん。
Since when were you?
ガーディアンフォース検証第3条。我々は良き民を見守り、保護する義務を背負う。私の一番大好きな条文よ。ちゃんと見守ってたわよ。最初からね。
And you didn't freak out about the near, like, bisecting that happened to Shizuru? Miss Nishikujo winks at us suggestively, and Lucia turns as red as a boiled octopus. It's been a while since I've seen her make that expression. The helicopter quickly ascends to the roof and lowers a rope to pull us up. What about Shizuru and Chihaya?
すでに回収して、先にシェルターへ向かわせたわ。しずるちゃんはともかく、あの大鳥って子も頑丈ね。
So she is still alive. Thank freaking goodness.
私はこれからどうなるんですか？
辛い戦いよ。でも私が命がけで守るわ。もちろん彼もね。
I nod firmly. I'm never leaving Lucia alone for her sake and for mine.
この町を滅ぼした連中に相応の報いと支払いをさせなくちゃならない。あなたは生き証人。これからの戦いの切り札よ。登場しなさい。同志。この花ルチア。
But what about her poison? Like, we do still need to worry about it.
ガーディアンフォース検証第1条。
我らは民を守る盾であり、悪を打つ槍である。
And there's some real evil out there. There's no time to put those spears away.
登場急げ。グズグズするな。シェルターへ避難後は冷凍睡眠装置に一時収容し、核攻撃後さらに別のシェルターへ移動する。そこで事情聴取と以後の作戦立案。しばらくは窮屈だが我慢しろ。いいか？貴様はガーディアンジャパンに所属する私の部下であり備品だ。私の許可なくの生き死には一切許さない。
Yes, ma'am.
いいえ、違うわ。そうよね、天王寺君。
Yeah, you're not allowed to decide whether you live or die without my permission. I'm letting you live, so live! Live for my sake and I'll live for yours. Come on, let's go. We don't have time to watch the sunrise. In a panic, Lucia threads herself through the loop of the rope. Her small frame looks smaller and smaller as it slowly gets pulled into the helicopter above.
天王寺君、ガーディアンに入らない？
At this point, I feel like I kinda have to.
私の直属で彼女の補佐をしてちょうだい。
Do I get paid?
契約金でどう？1億くらい出しちゃおうかな。
Fetch me? For real?
それ以上は出来高払いね。たっ ぷり絞り取ってやろうじゃない。うちの可愛いルチアちゃんにこれだけのことをさせてくれた連中にたっぷりと。
Just money then?
ぶん殴る方がいい？
Deal. I'll take both. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna pummel their faces.
風祭市核テロ事件1周年の今日、現地には大勢の遺族が訪れています。
What a freaking sentence that is. Nuclear terrorist attack. That's scary.
犠牲者を20万人以上も出した史上最悪のテロ事件であるにもかかわらず、この事件の全容は未だ解明されていません。
That's such an incomprehensible type of disaster. Like, it starts to approach just those numbers that are just like numbers. Like, the actual reality of it, like what it would actually be to see something like that happen in the world would be just mind-blowing.
国際テロ組織ガイアは同事件への関わりを否定し続けています。また、核爆発はテロリストによるスーツケース型核爆弾の一斉爆発ではなく、クラスター核弾頭によるものであるとの指摘する専門家もおり、
Yeah, that seems too military.
政府は唯一のクラスター核弾頭保有国であるアメリカに対し、資料の開示を要求していますが、これにアメリカ側が応じる可能性は低いと思われます。核爆発の前日に使用された毒ガスについても、未だその正体は不明で、風祭市への立ち入り禁止措置解除は未だ見通しが立っていません。
I wonder what Gaia is doing, like, because at least that headquarters of theirs is just gone now, right? I mean, maybe they could still phase into, like, that Stone City thing.
枢機卿団長引退に伴い、枢機卿団の3分の1にあたる人数が一度に引退することは極めて珍しいことです。一説には、枢機卿団内での熾烈化した権力闘争が背景にあり、痛みを伴う改革に着手したのではないかとする見方もあります。
So the infighting in Guardian is pretty severe.
フランチェスコ枢機卿団長の引退理由も健康上の理由ということになっていますが、一方で直前まで精力的に世界外交を取り仕切っており、何らかの政治的な背景があるのではないかと思われるのも避けにくいようです。
いいんじゃない？健康上の理由。
Wait, are we in Kazamatsuri? Or, like, has Guardian, like, officially now locked it down? Like, it's like a secret base now?
表沙汰にしたくない連中と、これを機会に一気に生み出しをしたい連中の思惑が一致したんでしょ？
Feels like too convenient.
彼らは彼らの時代に、彼らの方法で世界に貢献した。なら新陳代謝に従い、新しい時代は新しい人間に、新しい方法で任せるべきだよ。彼らは彼らの正義に従ったんだ。温かい拍手をもって引退を祝福すべきだと、そう解釈するのが適当だろうね。
あなた出世するわ。
言葉通りに受け取るよ。
ルチアちゃんの件まで丸々闇に葬ろうっていうわけじゃないといいんだけどね。
Right, like we need to make sure that doesn't get forgotten.
この花ルチアが決してことを荒立てないことを条件に、新団長は最大限の保護を約束してくれた。
保護という名の監視よね。
お互い様だ。君の爆弾は最大限の脅しになってるよ。
Fair. I mean, we don't tend to use her that way, but I mean, it's a pretty, unfortunately, it's the fact of life. She's essentially a super weapon.
世界中のサーバーに風祭り事件の真相を分散してあるわ。もし私たちの身に何かあってアクセスが途絶えれば、それは自動的に世界中に配信される。
That's a decent idea.
爆弾なんてひどいわね。ルチアちゃんとその保護者である私たちの正当な保険じゃない。
君らしい保身術だ。とにかく枢機卿団は君とことを荒立てるつもりは毛頭ない。
That's good.
表沙汰にはできなくても、鍵を抹殺するために彼女が殉教の覚悟を見せてくれたことについて高く評価しているよ。そうでなくてはあんな莫大な金は出てこないね。
いやね、全部必要経費よ。ルチアちゃんの生活環境を豊かにして、そして何者かの陰謀に備えるためには十分な設備投資がなくちゃ。ちゃんと領収書も切ってるはずよ。
Oh, so is that what it is? Like, Kazamatsuri is protected now, so people can't come in and accidentally get exposed to her. But they rebuilt, like, essentially at least a portion of the city to make it feel real, so she could have a life. That's cute.
今度はフロリダにプール付き豪邸買っただろう。バレてるぞ。
Oh, and obviously her own stuff.
セーフハウスに決まってるじゃない。 私たち、いつプロジェクトの残党に狙われるかもわからないんだから。
She shouldn't have bought it in Florida.
ブレンダたちの居場所は未だつかめないの？
Oh, they are still out there.
ワルシャワ以降の足取りは不明だ。もちろん手は尽くしている。君の申請が通り、彼らの賞金額はゼロが2つ増えたそうだ。もはや誰であろうと、彼らをかくまう価値はないね。
Yeah, but at this point, with all the information they'd had and like how forward planning they were, it really feels like they probably just have a good place to hunker down.
彼らとその目的を金より尊いと誤解するバカが現れない限りね。
We still haven't been able to track down the location of Brenda and her cohorts. Those guys are realists through and through. Now that Lucia is completely under Guardian protection, they won't take huge risks of going after her. More importantly, when I think about how they could still be continuing their sick experiments somewhere, sacrificing innocent children for their crazy delusions, it feels like a thorn in my side.
国際的賞金稼ぎネットワークが2つ連携して追っている。あと、小国の情報機関も賞金目当てで追跡しているようだ。それでも発見できない以上、彼らはすでに名を変えて潜伏してしまっているだろうな。
Certainly is very likely.
おそらく彼らの発見は死後の DNA 鑑定になると思われる。研究者の実績は名前と一体だ。すでに社会的抹殺に成功していると思っていいだろうな。
連中の手配写真入りトランプが全部暖炉にくべられる日まで、私たちの枕は高くなりそうにないわ。
Yeah, honestly, me too. They proved too tenacious.
それでフロリダか。次はどこだ？内緒にしてやるから今度招待しろ。
無論、ファーストクラスで呼んであげるわよ。
彼らはどうしてる？
元気よ。日本のボロシェルターと違って、欧米各国のシェルターは快適みたい。また今週から別の国の新しいシェルターに移動してもらってるわ。
Oh, gosh darn it. I hate how it always does that in this game. Like, I feel like I don't even like actually click the button properly. It just activates. But yeah, so now it seems like we're like essentially in witness protection flying around the world, traveling to these different safe houses.
彼女が地上に戻れる日は訪れそうかね。
Oh, she's underground.
それこそまさに父以外の誰も知らない。
Interesting. The sight of the vast rocky desert and signage of a foreign language tells me we're clearly not in Japan. I haven't seen a single house or even a single person in the last few hours. For whom are these paved roads even built in this deserted area? I have to respect their tenacity. It sounds like America. Most of America is really great, but we have some pretty interesting stretches where it's like, why is this here? The convoy of cars drives down these roads, kicking up clouds of dust. In the middle of the motorcade is a large trailer. Bookending it are several armed jeeps of high-class private military contractor. Though they are PMC, Guardian controls 100% of their funds. They are effectively one of Guardian's elite corps. The trailer's bed is plastered with warning symbols indicating it should not be approached with good reason. In the trailer's backseat sits Kotarou and Suzudu.
小太郎には話しておく。良くない知らせだ。
I'm guessing that they haven't developed a suppressing yet. Does Lucia need to know?
小太郎の胸にしまう程度でいい。
I bet the new suppressant didn't work out. Is it that?
残念だ。
Doesn't bother me. Didn't expect things would work out overnight.
最初の検査結果は間違いだったそうだ。それでも、ルチアの毒を3割は抑制できる結果が出た。
Oh, that's something. And what happened in Santa Ambrosia was just from a 0.1% of her current poison? Man, we got a long way to go. Fetch me, that's terrifying.
10日も、さらに研究予算を割くように指示してくれた。そして何より、小太郎。
Just say the word. Blood samples, mucus samples, pee, poop, whatever the heck you need. If my assistance can lead to the hope of letting Lucia live under the sun again, I wouldn't turn down any request. I'm considering talking to her about it. She did give her hopes up when she heard about how good the initial tests were. The important thing isn't whether the new suppressant worked out well. Regardless of how it turns out, I'm gonna be with Lucia forever. It's very sweet, very innocent, but very, very sweet. Of course, it's not like I didn't dream of walking together into the sun with her. But, well, it's pretty far down the list compared to just spending my life with her. Oh, okay, now that's adorable.
ネバダのシェルターはどうだった？
It was pretty nice. There were sunlight machines and a gym, though the pool was kind of a letdown. It was more like a giant bath than anything. Oh, and thanks for the console. Lucia has gotten really good lately. She's been tearing her way through the online rankings, just as good at Gray's Blue second, if not better.
世界で一番豪勢な引きこもりだな。
Honestly, she deserves it. Japan's shelter was the worst. Seriously, could you guys spruce it up a little? Lucia and I have been transferring back and forth between Guardian's old shelters that were built in the last century. As much as we'd like to just sit still in a single place, who's to say that someone might not be plotting to use Lucia in one of their schemes? For that reason, we've been staying in shelters all over the world for a few weeks at a time. Initially, I thought that we wouldn't be last living like this. I mean, Kazamatsuri's shelter was so crude and run down that it felt like nothing more than some underground storage depot. I only found out later on that the shelters were just a result of Japanese people's distinct lack of taste. The other shelters around the world were much, much more pleasant to stay in.
箱舟計画は、当時の権力者たちが、核戦争後も快適に過ごそうと目論んで作ったものらしい。
Yeah, they wanted to ride the wave on a high. You know, vault tech all the way. Looks like it. Those weren't shelters, they were more like underground 3-star hotels. Letting me and Lucia stay in places like that feels like a luxury. There are all sorts of facilities and thoughtful amenities. Miss Nishikujo seemed to be pretty aware of what we needed and has been working on having the shelters we're going to renovated. The internet connection is amazing too. We can talk to our friends anywhere in the world without any problems. I can watch the news as well. I can post all I want on certain anonymous image boards. I don't feel particularly isolated or anything. That way, Lucia can still enjoy talking to Shizuru no matter what shelter we're in. We don't feel inconvenienced. If there's anything we want, we can ask Shizuru to have Nishikujo prepare it for us. I wonder if they get, like, privacy, or are they constantly being observed? Because that could get awkward, especially for a relationship. From what I've heard, made a huge amount of money from threatening people with the truth of the Kazamatsuri incident. I'm sure you did. At the very least, every single person who was behind it was, as Miss Nishikujo said, smitten with a hammer of justice. Well, I'll leave that part entirely up to her. I'd probably get an ulcer in half a year if it was the one dealing with all the conspiracy stuff, but this is Miss Nishikujo. Nishikujo. She'll probably take care of it without even breaking a sweat. I can see barbed wire fences ahead of us. Looks like we've arrived at our destination. Shizuru gives us directions in fluent Spanish to the military contractor driving for us. We get off the trailer. She instructs the local Guardian staff as a container transported in. Within its biohazard marked containers, Lucia's cryo-sleep chamber. Not that any of them knows, though. Although they take care in handling it, they're definitely anxious about accidentally damaging it and leaking some hazardous waste. You're heading back right away? That's too bad. You could at least stay with us for a day.
次のシェルターでは、また私ものんびりする。
Right, because she's
今回
resistant.
は急な仕事だ。
She's got a resistance to it, but it can't, like, prolong, so she can do, like, short visits now. That's something. With Guardian?
旧風祭市近隣にドルイドが潜伏しているという情報がある。
Oh, I'm sure they are. Druids. I'm not that familiar, but apparently they're pretty similar to Gaia summoners. Oh, interesting. I wonder if that is Kotori. For a moment, Chihaya flashes in the back of my mind. After the Kazamatsuri incident, Sakuya showed up, and she disappeared together with him. Don't tell me. But Chihaya said when we rescued Lucia, would someone tainted by Gaia's ideology say those things? Well, as long as she isn't our enemy, that's good enough.
鍵の権限を疑わせる情報も数件。真偽を確かめる必要がある。
Oh boy. More rumors about the key. Wasn't it a false alarm in Africa the other day?
白ならいい。黒なら、また新しい戦争の始まりだ。
This is one of the most unresolved endings for sure. It's very clear. It's just like, we're gonna see it happen again. Just might not involve Lucia this time. The key, huh? What is it really, though? We've talked about it so many times, I've never even seen it in person.
あるいは、小太郎たちのすぐ近くにいたかもしれない。気づかなかっただけで。
Maybe. I'll just pray that we won't have any more trouble for the next 100 years or so. It really sounds like a vault tech vault door. Lucia, you awake?
さっき意識が戻った。もう窮屈だ。出たい。
Yeah, I'll open it up now. I've grown used to opening the locker on this cryo sleep chamber. With a deep metallic clunk, the lock on the giant black bed comes undone. Morning, Sleeping Beauty.
おはよう。眠るたびに いつも不安になる。
You know what? I don't
1000
blame
年
you.
経ってないかな。
I don't blame you. Relax. Even after 1,000 years, I'll still be here. I'll be the first guy you see when the lid gets opened.
ありがとう。
Lucia slowly gets up and stretches. I offer her a hand. She takes it and gets up from the bed.
ここは初めてのシェルターだな。
Excellent desert view outside. Oh, right. Shizuru had an urgent mission, so she had to head straight back. She said she'd chill with us a bit more at the next shelter, though.
そうか。残念だ。でも、小太郎とすぐに二人きりになれるから、たまにはいいかな。
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to be the very, very happy about that idea. Your stomach empty, right? Let's have something to eat before checking it out. I took a look inside, and it looks like a pretty nice place. Shizuru said there's a movie theater and even a tennis court.
そんなものまであるのか。やはり全盛期ガーディアンの無駄遣いは厳しく糾弾されるべきだ。
Hey, don't lift gift horses in the mouth. We're gonna just enjoy this. It's thanks to them we get to live the lap of luxury, though.
確かに。風祭りのシェルターにだけは戻りたくない。
Yeah, no. And we joke around, we depart for the cold and organic storeroom. The common area has a high ceiling and everything's nice and brightly lit. The air conditioning's perfect, too. You wouldn't even believe there's a desert outside.
今日は何日だ？
It's been exactly a year now. They're even holding a memorial ceremony and everything. Let's pray for the victims later.
そうしよう。
There hasn't been a single day that Lucia forgot about the victims of that tragedy. Even if Lucia had refused to participate in Brenda's plan, it would have been carried out regardless of her will after that inhuman surgery. Documents that were later confiscated from the project laboratories proved this to be the case. After being forced to undergo surgery to increase her toxicity, she was already a ticking time bomb at that point. There was absolutely no possible way to minimize the damage, no matter what measures they could have tried. So, even when the suppressants were acting before, it was essentially building her up into a bomb that just took years to build up anyway. So, yeah, that's unfortunate, but it would have happened. We've been telling her not to blame herself, but Lucia's guilt has never left her conscience. I called it. How could it? She's too genuinely good a person. Of course it's gonna weigh on her mind. She was never gonna be able to unburden that. That is gonna be the biggest albatross around her neck. And it sucks because it should be. Even if it was post-hypnotic and suggestion and drugs that kind of pushed her in that direction, there was a tiny bit of compliance within her, and she's got to live with it. Granted, I do believe she can move on from it, but she has to live with it.
例の先日の新型抑制剤の結果はどうだった？かなり良い数値が出たと聞いていたのだが。
Looks like we still got a long way to go. They said not to expect too much. Guess that means it'll just be the two of us for a while longer. Let's just wait patiently for the new medicine. Lucia stops and looks up at the dim ceiling.
これがおそらく私への罰なのだ。
Maybe. Could be worse.
私はあの時大勢の犠牲が出ることを厭わなかった。これはそれに対する。
At that point, it would have happened even if you weren't willing to work with them. It was already too late to do anything. They said that even if the cities issued an evacuation warning, there wouldn't have been much difference in the number of casualties.
私はあの日正義を裏切った罰として生涯日の光を見ないことを誓おう。それが私の名にふさわしい罰だ。
Hey, enough of that. Look, that's enough. Let's just pray for a tragedy like that never happens again. I doubt Lucia's feelings of guilt will ever truly go away. To borrow her words, maybe in 1,000 years. Maybe once the earth is covered in rust and poison and humanity ceases to exist. The entrance room's just past this door. It's a really high ceiling with simulated natural sunlight. It's actually pretty nice.
そうなのか。楽しみだ。
You're in for a surprise, I swear. Come on, let's go.
おい、何の冗談だ。ちょっとやめろ。
I sneak up behind Lucia and cover her eyes. Lucia wriggles around, wondering if I'm setting her up for something. Trust me, it'll knock your socks off. Just let me keep your eyes covered.
仕方ないな。付き合うぞ、茶番に。
They are pretty cute together. With Lucia's eyes covered, we approach the futuristic-looking door. Slides open with a satisfying schwump, bathing us in the bright light of the entryway. Even though we're underground, the high dome ceiling, natural light, and air conditioning all stimulate the environment that's exceedingly close to the surface. Although this is an entrance, it's actually a space big enough to fit a basketball stadium constructed to look like a natural park. And I do say it only looks like a natural park because the trees, grass, and other greenery are all artificial. If it were real, we wouldn't have the leeway to maintain all that underground. Even if it's artificial, the view is beautiful, rich with greenery, and the sound of flowing streams of water from the fountains come together in a spectacular entryway. Humanity has been familiar since days long past with the knowledge that one cannot live in a dark room of food alone. I'm still not showing the most impressive part to her yet, though.
水の音に小鳥の声までする。
It's pretty well made, isn't it? They recreated the surface here at this entrance. The lighting's tuned to simulate the actual sunlight, turning brighter and darker over time. They even threw in birds chirping as a freebie.
早く見たい。いつまで目隠しが続くんだ？
Just a little more. I'll let it go once we get to the very center. I want Lucia over to the center of the entrance, rather the underground garden. I want to hurry up and surprise her too. Alright, this should be good. Alright, I'm gonna let it go now. I'm sure you're gonna lose it.
驚かなかったら？
No, you will, I swear.
じゃあ驚かなかったらどうする？
I'll do anything you tell me to.
絶対だ。約束だぞ。さあ、いつでもいいぞ。
Here. Oh my gosh. Ooh, that's an interesting move to make, man. Within the vast underground garden are sunflowers, standing tall and straight. After opening her eyes at the center of the garden, she probably thought she was in the middle of a field of sunflowers. Though the sunflowers are artificial, they're also real. There are also real sunflowers. They're created from artificial sunflowers by soaking them in special chemical solution. Oh, so they reel and then they're preserved. That's why, even though they're actual sunflowers, they won't wither from Lucia's poison. There's a whole bunch of flower pots all lined up on the ground. You can look down, so I'd rather she doesn't glance that direction. As long as she doesn't see it, then this is unquestionably a field of sunflowers. You said you love sunflowers, didn't you? Aww. That's a good one right there. Look at that picture. Lucia falls to her knees, at a complete loss for words. Tears streaming down her face, she gingerly touches the sunflower stem.
痛い。ザラザラしてる。
So that's my win then? Aww.
小太郎の勝ちだ。
God, I'm getting good ones. This is gonna be a good thumbnail. Lucia's face is a mess of tears from happiness and all sorts of other emotions. She tries to play it off by laughing. I offer her a hand. She grabs it and gets back on her feet. The main cafeteria is just over there. It's kind of like a big for just the two of us, so let's find someplace to eat. That's where that's where the food for today's lunch is, though. Sorry, it's just microwave stuff.
またレンジか。いい加減料理くらい覚えろ。とにかく今夜から私がちゃんと作るから。
Come on, let's go. The main cafeteria is a real highlight. It looks like some hotel lounge. Guess the shelter's pretty fancy too.
特権階級者たちの箱物主義の極みだな。まったくけしからん。
You know, it's a fake life. Everything's artificial. But it sounds like we're making a pretty good run of it, huh? Instead of being honestly happy, she hides her feelings by sulking and complaining, though I've long gotten used to that part of her. With me pulling her along, we run along a trail of sunflowers. Before long, we vanish from view behind a sea of sunflowers standing tall. Aww. That day, without a doubt, Lucia was the key. In that case, who exactly was this girl who was the real key? Lucia, the key who took the lives of over 100,000 people, is still struggling with the weight of what happened. If the world was destroyed, those 200,000 lives would be nothing compared to the billions of lives that would be lost. Will the real key, with the resolve to take on the enormity of that decision, really come to this world? I wonder. I don't know. The only thing that can be said, the key will eventually reappear once more, somewhere on the Earth. And a tragic decision will be made to determine whether or not this world is meant to exist, and shoulder the responsibility for that decision. Will we, the human race, still be qualified to lead the world 1,000 years from now? I hope so. Lucia is the sin of humanity, created to reach that world of the future. And create it. It is far too cruel to ask her to carry that cross alone. Thus, I can't help but feel sorry for that key who must bear this responsibility. This is why I will continue to pray that there will be a world where the key will appear again and not have to make that decision. Interesting. From the South American Diocese number 7 shelter, Girasol 7, November 20, 2011, Tennouji Kotarou. Bye, Lucia. Oh, that's a cool picture too. A single sunflower in a desert. And I do believe this desert scene was actually used in the recollections of her like visions of the future. Beautiful. Yep, so there we go. Another one down. So I am going to leave this one to be a bit shorter because that was a pretty extensive ending. It's not quite the ending we want, but it gives me more time to make the next episode special. So what we're going to essentially do is I'm going to do a miniature wrap party where I'm going to basically summarize my thoughts and feelings about the two endings that I'm not covering directly, but because they are going to be so directly related to the full game, I'm essentially going to go over my spark notes of them and my general thoughts of them. So the Akade and the Shizuru routes, I'm going to be working really hard to get them down on my own. Again, I know some of you might be disappointed we're not covering every inch of the game, but frankly, it's a cognitive choice. We've discussed it many times. If you want to ask me in the comments, please do so. I will do my best to address you directly. But ultimately, it's just about building a pattern for the channel and also just making sure that there's still lots of great stories for people to explore rather than just experiencing the game through me. I still want these developers to be supported. I want the game to be purchased. I want people to be able to have their own thoughts and feelings and experiences. I don't want it to just be something that's told through me and that's the exclusive view you have of the game. And for a game this narratively heavy, it feels a shame if I showcase everything of every game. The times I've thrown entire games have either been because there's just no other way to do it, or because I've directly been told by the creator and developer team that they are okay with me doing so. And most of the time, they never contact me when I email them. I ask every time. I always say, okay, I'm planning to cover your game. This is my style of doing it. Would you be like amenable to that? Is there any reason why I can't do that? Which is, again, there are games that I want to cover on the channel that I can't cover because they expressly told me, don't do it. Clanad's a good example. Anyway. As far as Lucia goes, it's interesting. I think Lucia as a character is fantastic. I enjoyed her story and narrative, and the twists about the poison and the miasma and how that all worked was incredible. The fight sequence was fantastic. I think she as a character is beautiful and interesting and fascinating, but I have to admit, I'm not sold on the Kotarou-Lucia relationship. I feel like the ending was almost a little too sterile, if that makes sense. I talked a bit about like that grief that she holds inside her, but like I still feel like it almost came across like too go-lucky and happy, considering all the crazy like literal massacring death and nukes that happened in the story. Like you'd never guess that nukes were a part of that ending based on how it felt at for this finale, but they were, and so that's really interesting. I'm really curious to see how it's all gonna play forward, but yeah, so. I don't think this is going to end up being my favorite ending, but I do think Lucia in itself is a very striking character, and I do really appreciate what she brought to the table. I just don't think it can compete with the Chihaya or Kotori routes so far. So we'll see. Again, I'll kind of give my judgment on the other two routes too in hindsight. But even if this one were the worst route, I still loved it. It was great. And, like, I can't pass true judgment yet anyway. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it here. Any last second? I guess they sometimes have last second scenes. Alright. I'll wait to the end of this one, and if there is more, like, we'll cover it, obviously. And I don't want to click in case I accidentally skip it, because, you know, it depends on the games. But I don't really have much else to say about the ending so far. Like I said, I'm going to save a lot of my, like, really in-depth thoughts for, like, the end of the game when we do the wrap party, where I'm going to go over everything. That's where all my fine detail work will be coming in. But ultimately, pretty good. I'm just going to enjoy the music for a bit. All right. Anything else here? Thank you, Key and Sekai Project. Appreciate the fact that you helped provide this, and also to all the backers and everybody. Always thank you. In memory of Carilios, Conjurer, Jav. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I'm not gonna. I've already slaughtered it. I'm not gonna do it anymore. But yeah, in memory. Oh, looks like that's it. Complete Lucia's route. All right. Well, there we go. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you so much for waiting with me through all that. Oh, the menu's changing again. Oh, it keeps creeping closer and closer to, like, whatever the grand finale is going to be when it starts, like, actually letting us, like, through to, like, the real finales. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me for this series and for all of these wonderful journeys. This is a big and pretty impactful week for content, I think. If you haven't already seen, like, we just finished, like, Total Eclipse, and oh my gosh, that was a ride. Beautiful. And we're not close to being done with this one, but it feels like I am because I'm kind of having to play, because I'm playing through these other endings, like, right now. I normally experience what it's called Wrap Party Crunch, which is where I have to kind of, like, sprint through, well, not sprint through, but I need to make time diligently to get through the routes before I do the wrap party, which usually means that for, like, a solid week, all my free time is just dedicated to that game, where every scrap of time I can find throughout my day, I'm just playing it. And I'm having to experience that, and unfortunately, it's all kind of coming to a head with all the games. Thankfully, Total Eclipse doesn't have that, but ReWrite, I have to go through these routes, and then Trails of Gracia, like, I still have a lot of time, but that's also one I need to start working my way through because all those routes are really long. And so to get through that, to get ready for the wrap party for that, I also got to start having to work on that. But ReWrite's going to take first and foremost seat before we get ready for the grand finales of it. So yeah, real excited. Anyway, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel. Thank you for your support, especially if you're a direct supporter through Patreon and through the channel memberships. It means the world to me. Like, you help give me the resources that I can put back into the content, into the channel to try and make things better, keep them more consistent. Life's going through a lot of changes right now, so we'll see how that affects out, but I'm still pushing hard to be able to make content regularly, so I really look forward to being able to doing that with all of you. And your vote of confidence for watching, liking, subscribing, all of that means so much to me, especially going on channels like mine where it's small, niche, and focused on something that's so specific and so tuned to, like, a lot of for a lot of very particular people. It really means the world to me, and I'm gonna keep doing it. So thank you. And until this video watching me, see me next. I'll see you there.